Hello everyone, my name is Marcio Katz. Welcome. It's gonna take just 3 minutes and then we'll start. So we'll start in a couple of minutes, okay? I would appreciate if you guys could send me a message just to be sure that you can hear me, that you can see me. Okay, everyone. Thank you very much for being here with us. My name is Marcio Katz. I hope you guys can hear me. I would appreciate if you could send me a message just to let me know that you can hear me, that you can see me. It seems that yeah, we got some messages here. Yes. There is some problem with the sound. Yeah, guys, I would appreciate if you could just send me a message, and then if you can hear me, then we'll start our online class. Well, today we're going to talk about how you guys can manage a program in order to make the company comply with data privacy rules. Just a little bit about myself before we start. I'm the Chief Operating Officer for Get Global International. Get Global International is a data privacy consulting company with operations in the US, Europe, and South America. We've been holding some data privacy online classes every Monday, 1 p.m. Eastern Time. We've been doing this for the past 2 months, and today we are going to talk about how to manage a project to comply with data privacy rules step by step. As I usually say, every time that we talk about data privacy, either we are talking about the legal aspect of it, or we are talking about how to manage things in order to make the company comply with a data privacy regulation. Today we are going pretty much talk about the management aspect of making an organization to comply with data privacy. Not many people have experience in dealing with the different projects in making a company comply with data privacy. But some other people have already attended some programs, some online courses or some face-to-face programs, and some of them talk about the management aspect of dealing with data privacy. But not all of them gives you the kind of knowledge to actually understand what you definitely need to do step by step in a data privacy management program. Just to give you an example, this is something that we are extremely worried about in every data privacy course that we start. Just for those who don't know, Get Global International is an official Wixing training partner, and our data privacy program usually prepares the data privacy professional to get the DPO certification, the Data Protection Officer certification from Wixing. Our program is divided in three major topics. The first one is what we call Foundation. It's pretty much the legal aspect of the data privacy regulation. The second one is the practitioner. It's more on how to manage an organization to make the company comply with data privacy. And the third one is information security. That's definitely extremely important for any data privacy professional. And the reason why I'm saying that is that you may be able to learn things from these kind of courses, but definitely the most important thing for you is to be a little bit more hands-on. We definitely want you to have experience on how to deal with this kind of program. But unfortunately, even some other data privacy programs, they don't even teach you as much as you should know about the management aspect of dealing with data privacy. Unfortunately, some of the programs are more worried or more focused on the legal aspect of data privacy. So here we want to bring to you a different content that you will only find probably in data privacy programs like ours. Okay, we are going to use here for those who are already familiar with PMI. PMI is an international institution on project management. So it's the Project Management Institute, and they have their own technique on how to manage a project. So if you are a project manager, you already know this kind of graphic called Gantt graphic that shows you that has some piece of information that are quite important for those who are going to manage a project. It could be anything. Either if you are the project manager to build a car or a bridge or anything like that, or even a data privacy management program, you can use this kind of graphic called Gantt. It shows you every and each activity that you have to take care of, and it also shows you the activities that can go on during the same time, simultaneously, and some other activities that depend on the previous activity to be to start. So here we're bringing to you one graphic of a data privacy management program. Okay, it's pretty much divided in 4 different phases. Okay, so phase number 1, phase number 2, phase number 3, and phase number 4. And that's pretty much what we are going to talk about today. Okay, we are going to give you an overview of a data privacy management program in each phase of this program. During phase number 1, we pretty much have to take care of the scope of the project. The first thing that we need to do is to decide with the organization what exactly is going to be the scope of our project. For many of you who have already attended one of my classes, I probably have said that the first thing that we need to do, we need to talk with the C-level of the organization to decide what kind of data privacy project do we want? What are our goals? Do we only want to comply with the data privacy regulation, or data privacy is something that might be strategic for the organization? This is extremely important, okay? You also need to get the C-level of the organization involved in any data privacy project. So the first thing that we need to do is the kickoff meeting. During this kickoff meeting, we need to define exactly what we want to get from this project. So after this kickoff meeting, or during this kickoff meeting, we need to also ask for the project manager from the organization side to get us all the documents, all the forms and information related with the project. Because we need to, during this phase number 1, to get all the documents because we will have to analyze the documentation to see if there might be some gap in contracting a vendor or something that the company has assigned, agreed in a contract that might be a problem under the data privacy regulation. We also need, during this phase, as I've said, the engagement of the C-level. So this is something that usually we do by addressing a presentation for the C-level. And during this presentation, what we want to do is to get the C-level involved in the project. We want them to be aware of the importance of this project, of the importance of complying with the data privacy regulation. Remember that any data privacy project is a corporate culture change, and that you don't change the culture of any organization from the bottom to the top. It's the opposite. So it needs to come from the top. It needs to have the C-level as the sponsor of this project. So this is something that we need to do right away. We need to do the kickoff, decide what we want from this project, ask for all the documents, all the contracts, and right from the beginning, we need to set a date. We need to schedule a date, and we, as a data privacy professional, we are going to deliver a presentation for the C-level, and our goal here is to get the C-level involved and being one of the sponsors of the project. We can't move forward if we don't achieve this goal. Okay? After getting the C-level involved in this project, we need to understand the organizational structure of the company. We don't know the company yet, so we need to see, to have an overview of how the organization structure of the company looks like. Some companies, they have some different business, so we need to understand every single one. We need to understand each one of the business. Sometimes we don't even know all the business and all the products of that specific company. Sometimes me as a consumer, I know the company because of one of its product or its service. Sometimes I don't even know that they do some other things. And so that's why at this point we need to understand the organization structure of the company. And this is something that the company is going to present to you. So during this step, we need to ask the company to make a presentation for the data privacy professionals, to the data privacy consultant, to let us know everything about your company, what you do, how you do it, what's the organization structure of your company, and so on. Then right after that, we need to get some details of every area of the organization. So we are going to dig a little bit more deeper in the organization, and the way we do that is by starting to interview the manager of every area of the organization. So first we had an overview of the organization structure of the organization, but now we need to schedule a date with every manager of every single area of the company, because we are going to interview the manager. During this interview, we want to ask many things about personal data. We want to know what kind of personal data the area process, how they get that kind of data, why they need to get that data, where they storage the data, who has access to that kind of data, if the area shares the data with any other area or with any vendor, why they need to share it, what does the vendor do with the data, if they really need that data. So there are so many questions that we need to ask, because during this phase we want to start to do the assessment. So we are going to try to understand what's the impact of the data privacy regulation on the organization. So we need to understand what and how the organization does in order to let them know what they need to change to solve those gaps. And we do that by understanding the organization structure of the company, first getting the C-level involved, then getting to know the organization structure of the company. And then we need to start to dig a little bit deeper and start interviewing every manager. Sometimes the manager doesn't have all the information you need. Sometimes they need to ask some of their employees to make part of this interview, to answer questions that we as data privacy professionals will have to ask. And that's okay. We definitely need to get those informations, because by getting the information, then we'll be able to do the assessment. Very good. So right after phase number 1, we start phase number 2, which is pretty much what we call data mapping. Okay? So We analyze all the documents that we requested during phase number 1. So we try to identify all the vendors, why we need those vendors, what kind of responsibilities they have regarding the personal data that we process, and so on. By analyzing the documents, definitely we'll find things that we'll have to change in those documents. We also start identifying the data flow, things that I mentioned it before. Where do you get the data from? Why you get the data? Do you really need to get the data? Where do you store the data? Who has access with the data? Do you share the data or not with a vendor or some other areas? So we start getting what we call the data flow and the data life cycle. Okay? So we go on with the interviews, getting all these informations. And then we start developing some questions that we'll send to every area, some complementary questions that we want to make for some specific areas. So we keep diving into the organization. So by doing the interview face to face, we are able to get some information. But when we start analyzing the information we got from the interview, we might want to ask some specific questions about some specific things that we need to know. So we do that by sending those questions, and they will have to write down the answer. The reason why we do that is also because we need to create a compliance program. And you need to show some evidence of a compliance program. So that's why we send those questions, and they have to write down the answer, because that's going to be a part of the documentation and the evidences of this compliance program. Then once we get those answers, we keep analyzing all the information coming from the organization. We might need to make some complementary questionnaires, just some complementary questions that we might need to do. We complement all the information with these complementary answers that will come from the area, and then we'll start working on the report. There are pretty much two deliverables during this period, this phase number 2. The first deliverable is the gap analysis. It's the report. We are going to report to the organization every single gap. And the second one is the report that will show you what you need to do in order to solve those gaps. Okay, for those who are not aware of the management aspects of dealing with data privacy, I usually say that the solution for any gap, any data privacy gap, either is changing a process or training people or implementing some data privacy management software or making some changes in a contract. So the solution for any gap is one of these 4 things. Changing, you might need to change a process or train people or implement a data privacy management software, or it's a legal solution. It's a disclaimer or a change in a contract. Okay, so by giving to the organization the gap analysis, we will identify every gap, and then because we have pointed all the gaps, we need now show the organization what they need to change to solve those gaps. Okay? Very good. Well, moving forward. Let me see. Phase number 2. Now, let's see if it works. Phase number 3. So, as I said, during phase number 3 is where we are going to analyze everything that we have collected during phase number 1, but pretty much during phase number 2. So this is pretty much all the work that we as data privacy consultant will have to all the work we'll have to get done. This is here is where you find the magic, okay? Because this is technical stuff. Here we need to analyze, evaluate every vendor. We need to analyze and start thinking about the changes we'll have to make in every contract with the vendors. We need to also consolidate all the information and then start preparing the gap report, as I said, and also the presentation with all the recommendations that we'll have to make. So here you're going to use all the legal knowledge that you have on the data privacy regulation. So that's why any good data privacy course has the foundation that gives you all the legal knowledge on data privacy and then the management aspect of it. So far we were only talking about how to manage things, but during this phase number 3, we are going to use a lot of your legal knowledge on the data privacy regulation. So here we need to identify if one process that the company does is compliant with the law or not. Maybe something that the marketing is doing is not compliant with the law, is unlawful. So we need to change that specific process. Or sometimes we need to train one specific area on something specific on the data privacy regulation. For example, if we during the organization structure of the organization, we identified that there is one specific area responsible for new projects, new products, new service, and so on, new business. These people might need to be trained on privacy by design, for example, because that's a gap. If those people, those guys don't know anything about data privacy, they don't know how to apply privacy by design, they will keep innovating and bringing new things to the organization without taking care of data privacy. Or sometimes we have identified that the organization process, large scale of data privacy, a huge number of data subject, and they get a lot of requests from the individuals, from the data subject, and the organization is not able to organize all these requests and get all information needed to respect the data subject's right. We might need a data privacy management software to help the DPO to organize all requirements from the customers. Or sometimes we have identified that the organization does a lot of international transfers of personal data. That's pretty much something that we'll have to solve by working with our data privacy lawyers. So as I said before, for the solution for any gap is one of the four things that I have mentioned. So we need to prepare the presentation to report the recommendations, so people in the organization will be able to not even understand the gaps, but they will be able to understand what they need to do in order to solve the gaps. The legal area will have to work on the contracts, on the disclaimers, on the TOS, the terms of service, on the privacy policy, and so on. Every area will have to work on their procedures to change some different procedures. The data privacy area will have to train some specific areas of the organization, and sometimes, as I said, we might need to even implement a data privacy management software because maybe depending on the core business and on the size of the organization, it would be just impossible to manage everything without a data privacy management software. That's why our data privacy course has one class on data privacy management software. We either use OneTrust or Pauki, a British data privacy management software, because we feel that any data privacy professional needs to at least understand how a data privacy management software works. Okay? Very good. And then the last phase is implementation. So here we need to adapt. We need to start working on different projects that will start depending on the gaps that we have found out. Sometimes the gap is we feel that the organization doesn't have a very strong information security environment. Sometimes we need to start a new and big project on information security. So it's just impossible to identify right away what would be the projects that we would have to work on a data privacy management program, just because we don't know what kind of gaps we will find in the organization previously. So once we have the gap analysis, we are able to understand how complex or not this data privacy management program will be. Because sometimes when you start this program in one organization, you might find some good things, good news, a very good and strong information security environment. The organization has all the data flow. They have control of the data that they manage. They know why they get that data. For example, the C-level of the organization understands how important that project is. All these things makes this program easier for you. And you might face some big challenge in some organizations just because, there is no organization structured on data, or even information security is something that it's not part of the culture of the organization, or sometimes they don't even have contracts with the vendors, so we'll have to work on it from scratch. So that's why you need to work quite a lot, very hard on your assessment. I usually say that the assessment is 55% of the whole project. Implementation, adaptation might be, easier or not depending on the result of your assessment. And your assessment needs to be done properly. Because if you miss something during all during the interviews, if you miss some information that might be important, if there is something missing, you won't be able to identify a gap and won't be able to inform what the organization needs to change in order to solve that gap. And maybe that gap that's missing is the reason why your client might get a fine, a very big fine, or even a lawsuit. So that's why you definitely need to work on this. All projects that will have to start, every solution of any gap that's related with changing process, training people, and implementing a data privacy management software is something that you as a data privacy professional, a data privacy consultant, will have to give advice on this. And the last one, which is paperwork, work on the contracts. This is something that a lawyer will have to work on. So if you are a data privacy lawyer, you might be able to work on the documents and give advice on things that you need to change, but you won't be able to implement a software because you are a lawyer. But if you are a data privacy consultant and you have IT background, for example, you can help the company in implementing the data privacy software. You are able to train people. You are able to work and help the organization to change some process, but you can't work on the documents because you are not a lawyer. So depending on your team, on if you are working on yourself, you might need to get help from some other professionals, or if you are going to build a team to work the company, you will definitely, if you are not a lawyer, will have to work closely with the lawyers, because they are the ones who would be able to change all the documents in order to help the company, from the legal aspect on the documents, to solve all the gaps that needs to be solved by making changes in the contract. Well, guys, that's pretty much what I wanted to show you today. So if you guys have any questions, feel free to make those questions. I'll be more than glad to answer those questions. It seems that there are some questions here. So let's see. Sanjeev, hello Sanjeev. What's the color code, yellow, blue tasks? Good question. All the blue, the light blue and dark blue, is something that we as data privacy professionals will have to work on. And even the gray ones. The yellow ones are things that the organization will have to take care of. Okay? Is the DPO also the project manager? Also very good question. It depends. I know some DPOs that are the project managers, and I know some other DPOs that they like to work with project managers because they feel that they might be able to have all the skills necessary to manage the project. He's going to be responsible for the project. He's the one who is going to make the technical decisions, but some of them, they prefer to work with project managers. you definitely will need a project manager from the organization. So you are a DPO, you are a consultant, a data privacy consultant. You have your project manager, but the organization needs a project manager also, because you need to have a focal point. You need a liaison between you as a data privacy consultant and the organization. If you are part of the organization, if you are the company's data protection officer, you don't need. But if you are outsourcing, if you are a third part, you are not an employee, you are a data privacy consultant, you need to have this focal point. The person who will be able and responsible for organizing all the information. So, as I said, you will need all the documents. It's going to be impossible for you to talk with every area in the organization in order to get all the documents. So you talk with the focal point, and this person, this employee, will be responsible in getting all the documents. This person is going to be responsible in scheduling all the interviews, for example. Okay, so it depends. If you are part of the organization, you are the one who is going to take care of it. But if you are an external consultant, then you might need a project manager in the organization to make things easier for you. Okay, one more question here. How about running a data discovery tool apart from the interviews, as the management may not be aware of all the data? That's a good question, but remember that no data discovery tool will be able to discover every data, personal data. There is one article that I wrote about data mapping in data discovery. It was published by a very well-known data privacy media called CPO magazine, Chief Privacy Officer magazine. And I explain why I don't like so much the data mapping and data discovery softwares. I'll explain why. I'm not saying that it doesn't help. I'm just saying that it doesn't it doesn't do the whole job. If we are trying to identify personal data in different parts, in different storage, in different places, how does it work? The software needs to have some standards. For example, names. It follows some standards. Social security number. It follows a standard. Passport number. It follows a standard. Remember that under, for example, the GDPR, the General Data Protection Regulation, personal data is any information related with a person, identified or identifiable. A data of a person identified, it's easier because any information that identifies someone follows a standard. But the software is not able to find personal data of a person identifiable because it depends on the context. And no software that I know in the market is able to find data of a person identifiable. It needs, it needs artificial intelligence. I've spoke with some guys at IBM, and Watson is able to do it, but it hasn't been trained to do it. because identifiable depends on the context. If I have a list of telephone numbers, those guys are not identifiable. For me, I'm not able to identify them because just by having the telephone number, I don't have all the information needed to make those, these people identifiable. Maybe a telephone company might be able to identify by having the list of telephone numbers. So these people are identifiable for the telephone company, for the telecom, but not identifiable for me. So it helps, but it doesn't do the whole job. By doing the interview, you are able to dig a little bit deeper, and by analyzing, the answers in the interview, the questionnaire that you have sent, sometimes you are able to find some different answers on things, and if you dig deeper, you might be able to even identify if that person might be identifiable for that organization, things that you won't be able to do with a data mapping or a data discovery tool. Okay, there is one more question here. Phase number 3 is 55%. Please indicate percent for other phases. Not phase number 3. What I said is that phase number 1, 2, and 3 are 55. Because 1 and 2, you get the information you need. Phase number 3, you analyze the information and come up with 2 deliverables: the gap analysis and all the recommendations. And phase number 4 is adaptation, implementation. So phase 1, 2, and 3 together, 55% of the whole project. Phase number 4, therefore, 45%. Okay? Very good. Well, guys, thank you very much for being part of our data privacy class, of our today data privacy class. It was a pleasure. Remember, follow us on Instagram. Also, be part of our Telegram group. Great stuff on data privacy for free. We are going to leave the link here if you want to make part of our Telegram group. Next Monday, this coming Monday, we are probably, I'm not sure, we will talk about Privacy Shield. Most of you already know that the European Court has decided that the agreement that the US had with the Europe on international transfer of data privacy was considered unlawful. So it's a big problem for any company that does international transference of personal data. So it's something that we might be able to talk about next class. So it's the legal aspect of dealing with data privacy. So that's why we advise you to follow us on our social media, and especially be part of our Telegram group, because you are going to get great stuff on data privacy for free, and you will learn about our events, great events to come this month, and at the beginning of next month. I can't say much about it, but great news at the beginning of next month, especially for those who want to become data privacy professionals. So, keep following us, and you won't waste time. Okay? So once again, thank you very much, guys, for joining, for attending our class. Also, subscribe for our YouTube channel, because you are going to be able to watch our data privacy class on demand, so it might also be a good idea to subscribe on our YouTube channel. Okay, thank you very much, guys. Take care, be safe, see you next time. Bye bye.